I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Here we go. It's another edition of the Daily Puck Drop. It's Monday, July 21st. Welcome in, kiddos. We appreciate you watching and listening live. We go live every single day at 10 a.m. to 11:30 on YouTube, also on Twitter. And you can check us out on the Puck Sports mobile app. Download it today to your smartphone if you have not done so already. You can listen to us on the move, on the go, and in your car. Also there on Apple CarPlay. Now, once the show goes dark at 11:30, everything gets podcast up on YouTube. Just search Puck Sports. The Daily Puck Drop goes there. Also on your favorite podcast platforms, the one and only Apple and Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. And, of course, everything up at pucksports.com. And that's where you can go, and you can sign up if you'd like to. Become a member of the Pucks Posse, which is a contribution to everything that we do here, supporting the Daily Puck Drop every single day, in addition to the bonus shows that you get as well, like our MLB Insider Show with Ryan Divish, the Sports Pit, which we have news on the Sports Pit this week. Also, Mitchie the Kids appearances on Thursdays, and the Garage with Gas Take 5 podcast as well. All right, so go there. And pucksports.com. Also, if you're not following on the social media channels, please do so as well. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Puck Sports, on TikTok, in which we put all of our video clips up there after the show, Puck underscore sports, and then also Puck Sports there on Facebook as well. All right, broadcasting live from the Limbach Lumber Studios. Contractors, they got free delivers, everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. Largest stock moldings in the Northwest, old school service because they've been doing it since 1930. Give them a call at 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limbachlumber.com. Big thanks to Matt, Mark, everybody, Paul over there at Limbach Lumber for their continued support. Coming up today on the show in a few minutes, Bob Condotta of the Seattle Times. Seahawks training camp gets underway on Wednesday. Bring Bob on to get a preview of some of the upcoming storylines, top storylines leading up into the start of training camp, which is amazing that training camp is already here for the Seahawks, and they play a game. When's their first preseason game? It's like August 7th, is it not? I mean, it's right around the corner. Got football. Lots to talk to Bob about. Offensive line, wide receiver room, Sam Darnold, the defense, just all of it. I mean, the thing that's exciting about this year's Seahawks team is the anticipation really for the unknown of what they're going to be. Defensively, I think we kind of have an idea what they're going to be. Offensively, I have no idea. I don't think anybody does. No idea what version of Sam Darnold you're going to get. No clue about this wide receiver room. Can Walker come back and be good this year? Is this the right system for Ken Walker? We cover all of that with Bob Condotta coming up here in a few minutes. Bill Krueger, old school baseball. We talk to Bill every single Monday. Recap the opening series against Houston. It was good. I know the sour taste in everyone's mouth is going to be what happened yesterday. Everyone kind of wrote about the same thing, saying that the same thoughts after the game, that this was a golden opportunity to sweep them. It was, but again, you needed to just win the series. Take 2 out of 3 from them. You gained a game in the standings. You're 4 back. It would have been a gravy to sweep them. And I know it was a AAA lineup out there, but they took 2 out of 3. So it was good there for the Mariners. We'll get into the Scottie Scheffler brilliance because it just was brilliant again, which will lead us into announcing the first Puck the Picker grand prize winner coming up later in the show, which is a stay and play package at Gamble Sands. We had a tie for third that we had to have the tiebreaker, which was the tiebreaker was who got their entry in first. So we'll announce that coming up a little bit later in the show. So we'll talk to Condotta. We'll get to Seahawks preview training camp coming up. We'll talk to Bill Krueger, little Scottie Scheffler, and of course we wrap up every single show with Hey, What the Puck. They missed the sweep last night. Just quickly on the Mariners before we talk to Bobby C, and they lose 11-3. They're 4 games back of Houston. Houston is just a problem for this team. Not wholesale a problem this weekend, and they won't see them again until late September, 3rd week of September, I think is the 19th of September. And so again, they've got to stay in that striking distance to try and win the division, because this is the year that they can win the division. But there's a lot of good from this week of baseball. They came out, they did not lay an egg. I think that was kind of my biggest fear with this organization, with this team, is especially when they come off a series in which they've been really good. And they went into that break, and you're like, all right, now don't come home in front of your home crowd and then look terrible. And they didn't. It was a dominating kind of classic Mariners win on Friday. Thrilling game on Saturday, just something I'd never seen before. You think a guy gets hit on the hand, hits the knob of the bat, and Cal Raleigh heads up play, runs home from third base. And then, yesterday was just looked good for a while. Then it was just a clunker after, in the fifth through the eighth inning. But they didn't come out and lose 2 out of 3. They didn't get swept by Houston. So, again, it was a nice start there for the Mariners in the second half of the season. And now we get ready for which is going to be an awesome series against Milwaukee, which starts tonight. Milwaukee, I think, is got it at 9 or 10 in a row. I think it's 10 in a row they've won. They have swept the Dodgers in back-to-back series. It matched up perfectly, where you get to see the Miz coming up. Is it tomorrow? Mizorowski there for Milwaukee. Tonight's a great pitching matchup with Kirby versus Brandon Woodruff, who is only making his third start, missed all of last season in 24 because he tore his labrum there in 23. Then you get Mizorowski and Gilbert tomorrow, and then Castillo against Priester coming up there on the matinee game on Wednesday. Great series against the Brewers. Another great test against a very good team that right now is playing the best baseball in all of the MLB, just like when they played the Tigers. Tigers were playing the best baseball, and they went on to sweep Detroit. So a great test here for the Mariners starting tonight against Milwaukee. Jim Moore, the go-to guy, not here today. Why? Because he got his teeth pulled because he had dental surgery. And then he's like, well, I can still come on. Yeah, but he's done like this. So we're like, just take the day off. Spent $5,000 to get a tooth implant today. So I guess it's really important, that $5,000. We'll see. We'll talk to him on Wednesday. We'll ask him about how that magical tooth is going for him. All right. All right. So Seahawks, Bob Condotta. He's been covering the Seattle Seahawks for 13 years. This is year 13 for Bob Condotta. It's amazing. 30 years, I believe. I asked him at the end. I caught up with him early this morning. I believe this is his 30th training camp. For my money, a lot of people do a lot of great work. Everybody does. And this is not a take slight of anyone else's work. Bob Condotta, to me, is just the dean of covering this team. His knowledge, his reporting is just top notch. And I love talking to Bob because he can recall anything and everything. And as we are just now a couple of days away from the start of training camp, we caught up with Bob to get his thoughts on this year's training camp. Year number 2 under Mike McDonald. First time, a new quarterback, with Sam Darnold, and a lot of new changes for the Seahawks. And leads to the question is that we cover here with Bob, what are the expectations heading into this season for the Seattle Seahawks? Bob Condotta joins us now from the Seattle Times, as it's a big week. Seahawks training camp, it's already here. My God, it starts in a couple of days. And, of course, Bob's been covering the Seahawks for a very long time. You can follow him on social media at @BCondotta. Bob, I mean, it's kind of an exciting time, but it's also sad because when I see that they've reported for training camp, I'm like, oh God, summer's getting over. It's close to ending, but we're already here. God, it goes by fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it seems like it's starting a little earlier every year, although this year it's sort of a function of the NFL, the way the NFL calendar works this year. Basically, the season is beginning as early as it can after Labor Day because they want to stick to that Labor Day thing, but so kind of because of when Labor Day is and everything. So this does feel a little bit earlier in some ways, but it's always fun to get the football season started though, and that happens fast too. I mean, they'll be playing the Las Vegas Raiders, and I'm blanking on who the Raiders' new coach is, but I hear it's somebody. But they'll be doing that on basically 2 weeks, and on August 7th, and once they start playing preseason games, it always kind of feels like that's when it kind of starts a little bit because you just kind of have that weekly thing. So, here we go.
They made some news a couple days before for camp. You had the story there as they made the announcement, I should say, that Noah Fant released. What led to that, you think? Did that catch you by surprise, or was that expected?
No, it didn't catch me by surprise. What led to it is he had a pretty exorbitant contract for probably what they expected he would be, for what they were going to need him to do this year. He was going to make 8.4. He had an 8.4 million salary for this year, which was not guaranteed, and he was going to have about a 13.4 million cap hit, which would have been the second highest on the team, other than Leonard Williams. But I think it was the salary. Obviously, they're going to save all that salary. They'll save all that cash. Since none of it was guaranteed. And so I don't know if there was any thought to try to just give him a redone deal and bring those numbers down, or if they even approached him about that. I honestly don't know that specifically, but I think from the minute they drafted Elijah Arroyo, and then with AJ Barner coming on the way he did that last year. I mean, that's sort of your tight ends for the future. They're each on rookie contracts for another couple of years, and then they did sign Eric Saubert, which was probably a quiet signing. A lot of people might not have noticed, but I think they like him as kind of that third tight end guy who will specialize in blocking. He played for the 49ers, so he sort of knows the system and things like that they're going to go with. And he's a really good special teams player. So I think they could envision that as their kind of three-man tight end core going into the season. And then, the fact that they're going to use apparently they're going to use fullbacks more this year. You're going to keep somebody on the roster who in the years is kind of a de facto tight end in a way as well, and either Brady Russell or Robbie Oots. So there was a little bit of a numbers game there too. I think Fant was a better fit maybe for what they were going to do in the past than maybe they were going to do now with what they want to do with the blocking and stuff like that.
Do you think there's a possibility they keep both of those fullbacks?
I don't completely rule it out, simply from the fact that, each of them are, been tight ends primarily, Brady Russell being a tight end. I don't completely rule it out because each of those guys would play a lot on special teams. Brady Russell, I think, was one of your top 2 or 3 snap getters last year on special teams, and Robbie Oots did a lot of special teams work at Alabama. It was something they definitely liked about him. So they could be, one of them could be, they could be fullbacks on the roster, but also guys who could play tight end in a pinch for you if something happened that way. So I don't completely rule it out. I mean, they've had, years in the past when they maybe had 4 tight ends on the roster plus Nick Bellore in the years that they had Nick Bellore. So that's sort of 5 guys who kind of fit that role a little bit. So no, I don't totally rule it out. It'll depend obviously on everything else is kind of, on where they are the rest of the way and how many running backs they keep, I think would impact that as well. But I do think Robbie Oots is probably the guy that maybe would have a better chance at the moment of making the roster simply because he's a draft pick and they wouldn't want to lose him immediately if you waive him. And Brady Russell, maybe you feel like you could sneak him back through to the practice squad and then he's around. But I do think in that picture, they'd both be at least on the practice squad, so whichever one of those guys gets cut, if they had to cut one, they would at least keep the other one on the practice squad so he'd be there and available to play if needed.
It's kind of an interesting year. I mean, you got year 2, right, with McDonald. It's another year where they make a bunch of different changes to the team, to the roster, and it looks very different than it did a couple of years ago. And it was somebody who asked me this question the other day. Well, what do you think they're going to be this year? Like, I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, that's kind of the exciting part. I think of it looking ahead to this season, Bob, is they could go either way. It could be really exciting, or it could be it has the possibility of maybe being a train wreck. I don't know if it can possibly be that big of a train wreck, but I guess it's exciting from this standpoint, Bob, that the uncertainty of heading into this season, what it's going to be.
Yeah, I think the defense keeps it from being a complete train wreck, like say the 1992 season or something,
Sure.
which if you recall was, I was actually debating. It probably feels too negative of a thing to write, but if you recall, they've been good basically before the 92 thing, everything completely bottomed out. Knox left and they got rid of Dave Craig and everything went to complete hell. But they had a really good defense that year. Cortez Kennedy was the defensive player of the year. And the Sports Illustrated wrote a big story near the end of that year about how it was amazing that there was a team that was this good on defense, and it was terrible. But I think this year's defense keeps them to a level that even if with some of the offensive questions, I think they'll be pretty competitive. I think they'd be competitive every single week. But I just, the offense, and especially the quarterback situation, is the big wild card. And we haven't had that for a long time, where you've had a completely new quarterback. Geno obviously taking over for Russell, but we'd seen Geno play, and he had started the 3 games in 2021. So you had a little bit of a sense, which I think always played into a tiny little bit. I mean, they would have made the trade anyway, but it played into a little bit of the moves they made at quarterback that offseason, where they didn't try to do anything hugely more substantive, because they had seen Geno and they felt, comfortable just enough in what they felt like they had in him. But, in 2012, they ended up with a completely new quarterback situation with Russell and all that. But that's probably the last time we've really seen it like this. But in Darnold's case, in Russell's case, he's a rookie, so you had no idea. In Darnold's case, because we have seen him both good and bad, you are just kind of sitting there, well, which is it going to be? And can they make the system work to make sure it's the good Sam Darnold? Do they have the pieces around him to do that? And, so for sure, I think that's really what is the big question mark about this season, is just the offense, and not just Darnold, but also the receiving core and the offensive line. And, can they make that all work around him to, kind of pair with the defense that, again, I think the defense is going to be pretty good. So I think that keeps them pretty competitive, every single week.
What did it look like when you guys were able to see it for the first time in the mini camp? And it's hard because it's new system and new players and all that. So it's hard to judge, but what were the early observations of what you saw?
Yeah, well, they always do so much situational stuff too. So, there was a day we saw them do like 30 plays from the 10-yard line kind of thing. It can be a little bit hard to sort of judge that in the framework of what's this going to look like in a game when you just see them do that. And so training camp always really helps with that, because when you just see them every single day and you see them do everything, you get a little bit of a better sense that way. It was frankly a little erratic. I think we all portrayed that a little bit, that, Darnold had a couple of interceptions, a couple of throws that he definitely didn't want back. There was the day we did talk to him kind of in the middle of that. He talked about that, about, how he's kind of just still learning the system but of also when to make plays and when not to try to. And, that's always been that had been a little bit of his MO earlier in his career, of maybe kind of forcing things at times and the turnovers and things like that. And so that's really to me, that's really the big question mark with him, is making sure that part of his game doesn't kind of erupt again, where he's kind of throwing the ball around a little bit more than they would like. And I think with the defense that they have, that's going to be more important than ever to not put the defense in bad spots, because if you can play that field position game, I think they feel like they'll be able to be pretty competitive. That may lead to not always being the most exciting offense to watch in the world necessarily, because they might be looking a little bit more conservative at times with what they're doing offensively. But, what they want to look like is what the New Orleans Saints looked like the first 2 weeks of last season. When Kubiak was running it there, but yeah, I thought in general, the passing game, it looked like it had some room to work in the spring for sure. And it'll be interesting to just see that from the ground running, from the first day this year. See how it works.
They do enough of that wide receiver room. That has to be one of the bigger question marks, right, heading into the season.
Definitely. I would not surprise me if they looked around for who might become available as a veteran receiver as camp goes on. But yeah, Cooper Kupp, that was one of the really good things in the spring, was that Cooper Kupp was out there every day, looked totally healthy and in shape and all that after obviously he's had some, it's only played 12 games once, or the most he's played is 12 games the last 3 seasons. So that was a good sign. And Marquez Valdes-Scantling, he's got it. His track record is sort of what it is. He's another guy that's kind of been up and down in his career. There's been times he's looked really good. And, I think most of the teams that have had him, if there's always been that kind of like tiny bit of frustration with him because he can look really good, and you're like, why don't you get that every single week, kind of thing. And so, there might be some of that too with the Seahawks, but obviously they're going to hope that they get the good out of him. And again, they're pointing to when he played for the Saints last year under Kubiak is sort of what they expect there. But and then Torrey Horton, what was good news last week, maybe quiet, but was that he was not on any of the injured lists when the rookies reported. So that appears to indicate he's going to be ready to go on Wednesday when they start, and that's good. We didn't really see him in the spring, so I think he could be your fourth or fifth receiver and fit in fairly significantly there. So it'll be good to see him immediately and see where he does fit in.
You think you'll get an idea of how they want to incorporate Milrore at all in camp? How they want to incorporate him in the offenses here?
Yeah. I mean, we didn't see, to be honest, I didn't feel like we saw anything in the spring that indicated they're doing that. Now that could change. And so I do think if that were to happen, we would probably see some evidence of that. He's going to play a lot in the preseason though. I mean, I don't know how much Sam Darnold was going to play in these games. He might play a little bit here or there, but that's why they're doing that. A big reason for that joint practice against the Packers on August 21st is to try to get Darnold a lot of work in sort of a controlled setting. So I don't know how much we'll see him in the preseason games, but I do think we'll see Jalen Milrore a lot. So I think we'll see, they'll get a good sense of where he is and is it worth doing something like that. But I feel a little bit like that might have been overplayed somewhat. The whole idea that they're trying to craft, this special offense for Jalen Milrore that would get out there every single week. I don't know if they're necessarily looking to do that. I do just think they want to get him a lot of work, see where he is in his progress, see if it's worth trying to do something like that. And, he's probably going to be, he's going to be on the 53-man roster. And so because with the way the quarterback situation works, he'll be active and he kind of be available in one way or another most weeks. So I think that's another thing that might lead him to at least having something ready to go for him in case you would need him.
Yeah. Interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, because they just, you were there, grabbed all the headlines that the day they drafted him, and McDonald's like, I can't remember the exact quote. It was something we expect to see Sam on the field, 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And the other percent is Milrore, and people are like, what? Like, it just seemed like it was an odd state. I think everyone had the similar reaction. It was kind of an odd statement.
Yeah, no, for sure.
To that question.
Yeah, I think they were excited in the moment that they had him, and you're not going to rule anything out, and he's a third-round pick. I mean, that's a little bit of a high pick to then when you've got Sam Darnold to stay like this, well, he's not going to play for 3 years or whatever. So I think you're throwing that out a little bit. But I do think, maybe it was simply wanting to get Sam Darnold as many reps with the ones and kind of get him ready to go that way. But that was pretty much what we saw. Maybe they did stuff in the practices we didn't see. So I never rule that out. But in the practices we saw in the spring, Sam Darnold basically took every snap with the ones. Drew Lock took every snap with the twos, and then Jalen Milrore ran the threes. And I didn't see any evidence of Jalen Milrore suddenly playing with the ones and them kind of doing some stuff with him. But Ken Walker wasn't really out there during that time either. He had that ankle injury, and maybe it's the kind of thing where you're using Milrore's running skills in a way that you would use it with your running backs more so, kind of thing. Sort of a package that maybe you'd want Walker out there. So maybe it all comes to maybe something like that looks a little bit more once they get everybody out there in training camp.
How do we? It's a perfect transition, and that's why you're the best in the business. How do we summarize and write the 3 years of Ken Walker in Seattle?
It's been tantalizing, but not probably to the level everybody would want. That's not like the greatest one-word sentence there ever. But I mean, his first year, I think, basically gave you what you thought you were going to get out of him, and you were hoping it was going to go up from there. And instead, it's gone down from there. I think he averaged 4.6 yards per carry his first year, and I think it was 4.1 in 2023, and then 3.6 or whatever last year, 3.6 or 7 last year when he battled the injuries and only played the 11 games, if I'm recalling right. So. I don't think it's been quite to what you'd hoped, and that's why he's not signed to an extension, and I don't know that he will be before the season. I think that's one of those things they'll probably let that, I would imagine, let that play out and see how this year goes, and then make a decision on that. Especially since you've got Zach Charbonnet obviously kind of waiting there in the wings as well last year. The time the running game looked the best last year was the game Walker didn't play against one of the games he didn't play against Arizona. So I think there's some to prove there for sure that he can stay healthy and that they can then kind of craft the running game around him. And I know there's people who know way more about the schematics of everything than I do who aren't sure this is going to be the best fit for him, because the whole, kind of the zone blocking, you've really sort of got to follow the patterns there. And that Walker's, it's always had a little bit more of a tendency to kind of try to make something happen somewhere else kind of thing, not always just go exactly where the hole is. And that was what they felt like they were getting done at the end of his rookie year. If you recall, they went to Kansas City and they didn't win the game, but he had a really good, the running game looked really good in the second half of that game. And I remember everybody kind of writing and Walker himself saying, like, this is how it's supposed to look. And I need to just go hit the hole and things like that. But it's been a struggle to get that done. As consistently as they'd hoped the last couple of years. Now, last year, the offense, ended up kind of being a disaster in every way. And that's why there's a completely new offensive coaching staff. So I'm sure in the building, there's the hope that this will fit better for him. He'll stay healthy. This will fit better. And we will finally see the Ken Walker that we saw, most in his rookie year, and kind of see it, maybe even better in year 4.
We've gone almost 20 minutes. We haven't talked about the storyline that has always haunted this franchise for the last few years, and that's been offensive line. Gray Zabel, where do we look at the offensive line right now? It feels like there's a little bit more continuity to it. I mean, we haven't seen Zabel play with this group, but you got him there, and so he's entrenched in that spot. And then you've got the 2 tackles. But now you're kind of, there's a debate maybe what the center spot's going to be, but probably not much of a debate, right? I mean, it's.
Yeah, I would put my money on Oluwatimi right now.
Yeah. So he's the guy there.
I think they like Jalen Sundell a lot, but I do think center and the way this offense is going to be, I do think that's something they'll want to figure out, from the first couple of weeks, so that they then have all those guys working together. This is kind of such a teamwork, sort of deal when with the outside zone and stuff like that. You really need that all together. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they want to try to get that sorted out. I mean, not immediately, but by mid-August or something like that, or maybe not till after that Green Bay thing. I do think that the joint practice is when maybe you make a lot of your final decisions and you see it work against another team in a setting like that. But yeah, if I had to bet, I'd bet on Oluwatimi. But I do think they like Jalen Sundell, and I don't rule that out. And then right guard is the other position that's kind of up for grabs with Bradford and Christian Haynes. Bradford, it was interesting how highly they talked about him in the spring, and kind of compared to how he played last year and what fans, I think, reaction was to how he played. But Christian Haynes, third round pick 2 years ago. This is kind of the year for him to really, it's only year 2, but already, the NFL careers kind of go fast. If you're a third round pick by your second year, I think you're expected to kind of start showing if you're going to be somebody who can get on the field consistently. So that's a really intriguing battle to me, but I also don't rule out that they could go with a rotation there. Guard's a spot. You can sort of do that more easily than any other spot on the offensive line, and especially right guard, I think. That you could go with a rotation there. So it would not surprise me if that ended up happening there with those 2 guys, at least to start, and then kind of see what happens.
Charles Cross, new deal imminent, you think?
Potentially. The fact that they did pick up his option for 26, and so, Charles knows that's what, I say at worst, but at worst, he's going to get $17.5 million or whatever in 2026. I think means there's not necessarily the urgency to get it done, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did. If you do something now, then you get him a big bonus that he gets now instead of having to wait till next year to get a really big chunk of money, and then you do keep him under contract for a little bit. You can bring down that cap hit for next year, which none of that would probably help you much for this year. So, but yeah, the one thing with the release of Noah Fant is it does kind of open up some cash there that you could now spend on an extension or 2. So it wouldn't surprise me. Cross, maybe Kobe Bryant as well as another guy who's been mentioned and might seem logical. I think they like. I think they have high hopes for what he can continue to do in the defense. And all the guys in the 2022 rookie class are eligible for one, but those might be the 2 that seem most likely hitting. At the moment.
Hey, what's the latest? With Nwosu, what's the, I guess, best case timeline for him to return?
Yeah, we did not get much of a timeline in the spring when we asked Mike McDonald about it, But I think they're hoping he's ready for the season. They described it as a cleanup surgery. John Schneider did in February, I think, when he was at the combine, and we asked him about it. And so that was sort of the thought. I don't read a ton into the fact that he was put on the PUP list, because I do think you can only use that once, and that gives you the potential of roster flexibility down the road. So if you typically have much of any question about a guy, you kind of put them on there until they show they're totally healthy. So you can come off those lists at any time. So I'd wait a little while to worry much about that. If you don't see him on the field in a couple weeks, then maybe I'd start to worry more about that. But he's a veteran guy who doesn't necessarily need a ton of practice this time of year, to prove anything from that standpoint. So it's just about getting him healthy and making sure he's 100% healthy by the time you throw him out there.
Hey, last thing for you. I mean, last year was such a whirlwind, I think, for this organization, for Mike Macdonald himself. Did you see any change in that offseason from Macdonald? Did you see him? I don't know if it was a philosophical change, but just a change in perhaps coaching demeanor.
Not necessarily in coaching demeanor. He definitely, there was one day that I don't know if this was a difference from last year, but it definitely kind of stood out a little bit. There was the day that, he felt like they weren't practicing. They weren't practicing. They were getting a little bit too physical, actually, at practice is what was happening. And, and he really called them together and quickly was like, hey, this is a drill. We need to do the drill. This isn't about trying to show anything. I mean, we got to stay within how we're supposed to practice. And, it only lasted 10 or 15 seconds, but it was a very definitive, he got everybody together, made his point real fast. And then it kind of ended and they went back to it. And it seemed like they did exactly what he wanted, because it seemed like they were, after that, definitely kind of sticking to the way they wanted practice to be run. Because there's all these rules about what you can and can't do and stuff like that during that time of year, and you're trying not to get guys hurt and stuff. But I don't know if that was a huge difference from last year necessarily, but I do think he's just a little bit more comfortable in everything around him. But I also thought with what they did in the offseason, I thought you kind of saw it with the firing of Ryan Grubb, where he took the year to figure out exactly what he wanted and who's working for him and around him and what they're going to look like. And, he decided immediately that this wasn't working with him at all. And so we're making this change immediately. And then I'm going to go, he had much more of a say, I think. He resisted that a little bit when that was brought up, but I think it's logical to think he had more of an input in how they went about hiring the offensive coordinator this year, because he was there from day one of doing that and looking through who was available and things like that and putting it together that way. So I do just think his overall input on everything they're doing is just probably a little bit more this year, just because he knows more about what he wants.
Well, I'll get started in a couple days. Godspeed to you, because this is the busy. You are going to be working nonstop. No one does it better than you. B. Condotta on social media. Seattle Times, seattletimes.com. Go get yourself a hard copy. Read all of the work that Bob will have starting this week, starting on Wednesday. He's got a preview already, a little bit of a preview that he wrote a couple days ago. Sam Darnold just analyzing the top storylines heading in to training camp. Story up on Noah Fant from yesterday as well. But get your rest, because Wednesday, the grind starts, my friend. Year number what for you covering the Seahawks?
13, I think. Yeah, season 13 covering the Seahawks. So, but yeah, with the Huskies, it's basically year almost 30 of doing starting a football training camp. I mean, every year since 1997, covering a football training camp and with all of that. So yeah, it's I can at least say I'm seasoned at it, I guess. So.
You are, and you're great at it. And I appreciate the time as always. Thanks, Bob.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jason. Yeah.
Bob Condotta, Seattle Times, covering your Seattle Seahawks, entering his 13th year of covering the team, as he mentioned there at the end, 30th year of being a part of a training camp with his time covering the Huskies. And I do believe when you look at the Seahawks, the anticipation for this team is unique in a sense that there is a great unknown about what this team is going to be. I mean, and it certainly starts, with the quarterback. Did they get the decision to move on from Geno Smith and go to Sam Darnold? Is that ultimately going to be the right decision? Did they make the correct call on pivoting off of that? And what version of Sam Darnold they're going to get? Because I don't think there's any fan out there, anybody that can answer what they're going to get with him. Are you going to get the version that you saw for the first, 14, 15 games of the season with Minnesota? Or are you going to get the one that you saw at the end when in the playoffs and felt like it kind of reverted to old Sam Darnold? And I think we've had this discussion and we've talked about it a lot, especially with Mike Garafolo, who's on with us every week from the NFL Network. And I think we've always kind of concluded he has, you're going to get something in the middle, that he has grown and learned. But where this team is going to go in terms of, do they, get beyond where they were last year in terms of wins, and maybe the wins doesn't even matter as much as, do they get into the postseason? Can they get into the playoffs? Because that's all that anyone cares about, is largely going to be based on what he does. Because they decided they needed to upgrade at that spot. They got a younger, you can make this argument. I've heard people make it before. I think it applies. You got a younger version of really Geno Smith. So they will get in and they will make an impact and they will make some noise in the playoffs if they can, or this season in general, based on what Sam Darnold can do, which is it's exciting. And I think probably nerve-wracking for that organization, because they've really stepped out and made a big change, big change towards the future, something they've continued to try to find as that quarterback position since they traded away Russell Wilson, finding that next guy. And then I think that, the Milrore conversation is going to be fantastic. And I can't wait to see what he looks like during training camp. And then more so is when he gets into the games. What does he show you? What is he going to entice this fan base, this organization? Because he's going to do something. We've said this a lot. He's going to do something in these games in which your mouth is going to be on the floor. And you're going to want more. And you're going to want to see him more. Then I also think, one of the bigger storylines is, this wide receiver room, I don't know. I just, there's a lot to be desired, I think. And with that being said, that there is also that they could be good. There's a lot of ifs there, but you need Cooper Kupp to stay healthy. He can't have injuries that have plagued him here in the last few years. I'm excited to see the maturation, the development of JSN, but then you've got Scantling, Valdez Scantling, and you've added him, but he really, as Condotta concluded there or talked about, that guy has been a one-trick pony. He's always been a guy that has tantalized you from a wide receiver standpoint, but he's never kind of, okay, you get a little bit, but now you want more. Defense under year 2 of Mike Macdonald seems like got better, faster, more aggressive. See the development of that. Their next step is they've got to put those games that they had flashes last year. They need to put those games against the better opponents that they will see on their schedule. But it all gets started there on Wednesday. There at the VMAC. Bob Condotta will be all over it. Again, B Condotta there on social media is the follow. Bob is he's just, the guy's one of the best in the business. Always has been. He's just always has been just one of the absolute very, very best in this business of covering the Seattle. I almost wanted to say the Seattle Mariners, covering your Seattle Seahawks. You know what, though? At times he has covered the Seattle Mariners, now that I think about it, because, with old the human pony cake, with Divish taking so much damn time off, he's actually had to go in there and cover the Mariners there at times. But the question marks heading into the season, probably are just the same question marks we've had before, a little bit more so just because of the quarterback situation. There was the known of going into the season, right, with Geno Smith. And the question marks still remain about the offensive line. The continuity it seems like there's a little bit more of a stable base, but you have question marks about Oluwatimi at center. You question mark who's going to win that right guard spot. Hell, we think Zabel's going to be good, but I don't know. All signs point that he is going to be, but no one knows until he actually straps it on and goes up against NFL competition. The tackles, if they're healthy, Cross has been fine, but Abe Lucas, if he's healthy, they're rock solid. there. All right, so we go from football, Bob Condotta talking all things about the Seahawks as camp gets underway there on Wednesday. Now over to baseball. Bill Krueger, Old School Baseball, host of the Old School Baseball podcast, which you can find on your favorite podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts, joins me every single Monday to break down the Mariners. The start of the second half of the season is underway. Got off to a great start by taking 2 out of 3 from the Houston Astros. A man not short on an opinion, Bill Krueger, Old School Baseball, right now. Well, a good weekend for the Mariners wraps up. Could have been better weekend. Could have been a much better weekend. But they still did take 2 out of 3 from the Houston Astros. They did get a game better, a couple games better there in the standings. Now only trail the Astros there by 4 games. And here he is, Bill Krueger, joins us on Mondays. Old School Baseball is the podcast. He's the host of the world-renowned Old School Baseball podcast, which you can find on all podcast platforms. And, of course, you can follow him on social media, oldschool_MLB. William Krueger, it was a good weekend. Could have been a great weekend. And, God, we sometimes focus on the negativity, but they let that Sunday one slip away. But the big picture was they gained a game on them. They took 2 out of 3 against Houston. So, overall, it was a good series to open up the second half of the season.
Very good. They didn't let the hiatus take their momentum away. Winning 2 out of 3 from the team you're chasing is really good. You can't always figure that you're going to take sweeps like they just happen every day. So 2 out of 3 it's the winning formula. As we go, how do we win every season? Is you win 2 out of 3, and that's boring because you want to sweep, right? So I hear you. But I think there was an awful lot of positive that came out of this weekend. They won the first one straight Mariner script.
Yep.
The second one they won by being gritty and tough and winning in a really elongated battle. And then the game 3 got away because when we can talk about it, they've got as much as we talk about their offense needing a boost in the corners, what they really, 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 really need is help in the bullpen.
Okay.
They need some help,
and we've talked about that a lot for sure. And we'll get into that in just a quick second.
Mm-hmm.
Go back. I'm going to go back to Friday for a quick second.
Yep.
And Castillo, I don't know how much I haven't given enough attention maybe to Luis Castillo this year. It was a fabulous performance on Friday, Bill.
Yeah, that's a very good match. They only have one left-hand hitter, Caratini. And that really, really plays into Luis's hand. Not that he can't get other hitters out besides right-hand hitters, but to watch him operate with his 2 different fastballs, a lot like Woo. I mean, they're almost carbon copies of one another. They both kind of upshoot the baseball. They both throw the 2-seamer and the 4-seamer. They both run the ball in on the right-hander's hands and then try to hit the top line. He threw 73% fastballs, and that's exactly what he did. He executed those 2 pitches with aplomb and really, put that lineup in check. I think he struck out Altuve 3 times. I mean, that was a stellar performance. And as we've talked a little bit about Luis, the one thing you have with him that I think the Mariners, and I don't know, they obviously have their charts that go into the next century when they look at pitchers. We got to forecast out. We got to make sure we protect them. We got to make sure they're, we want to make sure that, we don't want them to throw 93 pitches. We want them to throw 92. It's sort of like the great golfers. They say, how far is it? And they go, is it 141 or 142? And then they go, it's 141 and a half. Oh, good. Now I know what to hit. I mean, you're splitting hairs here. Okay. I mean, honestly, I think that Luis is a generational arm. We've talked about it. I think he's a guy that threw back to at least as far back as when I played, where we had guys that threw 7+ innings, that used a lot of pitches, that always were able to throw from the 100 to the 115 every game. He does not lose juice. He's got plenty of gas. He's a generational arm, and they should lean on him a little bit more. He does throw a lot of pitches, but that's who Luis is. But I thought he was spectacular, and that game went right to script. You were able to get right to Although they had to play a little mix and match, and it was a little tricky because their third best reliever in the bullpen is Spire, and there's only one left-hander that flips over to hit right-handed, and that's Caratini. So they had to dance through that one inning, but they got the brash and Munoz and put it in the books.
Saturday was just a bananas game. How many times I haven't never seen where you think a player gets hit on the hand,
Yes.
and then he does, but actually hits the knob of the bat and heads up base running by Cal Raleigh. It really was. It was just a smart play there by Cal at third base to just immediately break for home.
He's an all-around player.
God,
I mean, to me, that won the ball game.
Yeah,
His instincts on the bases. He's shown that he can steal bases, and he's not afraid to put pressure on the other team. And he got over there, and he had his weight go in the right direction. I guess that's important. You don't want to have your weight going on your right foot. You kind of want to be back on your left foot so you can push off when the play happens. And he read it beautifully.
Yeah.
Everybody in the ballpark froze, including Hader, including the catcher, including everybody, but one person did not freeze.
Yep.
And that was Cal Raleigh, another winning play. You start adding up all the things that this guy does. You can put that one on his list of greatness that won a ball game. You know, I'm not a big fan of that vegetable soup they call WAR, but that to me is a WAR play. If you want to talk about gains above replacement or whatever it is, wins above replacement, well, there's one right there. That's a whole win above replacement right there.
We haven't talked since he was crowned home run derby champion. How awesome was that? Just everything. The spectacle of him winning it. You know, Griffey being there, turning his hat backwards, his dad throwing him BP, his younger brother catching. It is everything Cal Raleigh was that home run derby on Monday.
It's like a movie. You know, it's like a family movie. I mean, it's just too incredible. And then we get the clips of him when he's a little kid calling his home run derby experience. I suppose a number of us have done that whole backyard thing, I guess, but it did fit in so well, right? Perfect. That he we talk a lot about, you know, if you can see it, it can happen. If you can see it in your mind, it can happen. And that's a really telling, that little thing that he has his family shared with us. Yeah, I mean, it does work. And the fact that his dad is out there and he's throwing him millions of BP, millions of pitches of BP, you know that. He knows exactly where he wants to throw the baseball. There's comfort in that. And they were working together as a team. They put a little time into this before they got there, so they scripted it. They knew what they wanted to do. I thought it was cool that he hit right-handed, and that made a statement. But it also gave his left-handed swing a little bit of rest. I think he might have gained a little bit there by hitting right-handed that one round. I thought that worked together for him. But, you know, even though he was probably the favorite, you didn't get that feeling when that whole thing started that he quote unquote was the favorite. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And yet he stepped up to the biggest stage and he performed. And when you're the leading home run hitter in the league and everybody kind of says, well, yeah, you better do that. He didn't flop at all, man. He went out there and he performed.
Goals and I mean, not goals for the second half of the season for him, but how do they navigate his workload in the second half of the season?
Well, you always look for days where you can get him off the field and maybe there's a day off after that. I mean, that can always work nicely. And the better that Garver swings the bat, the more you're comfortable putting him out there, because sometimes, you know, you want him to catch when the left-hander's out there. And even though Cal can hit left-handers and he's going to DH. And, you know, as far as Cal's concerned, a DH is an off day for him. I mean, he's a little bit like Seager. You remember Kyle Seager? They'd almost have to put a straitjacket on him to take him off the field. I mean, literally, you have to straitjacket that guy because he's going out there. Okay. And that's Cal. Even when we watched him yesterday in the dugout, he's walking around, he's got his glove on. He's like a 12-year-old. He's like got his glove on. He's like going to walk by the manager. He's going to walk by Dan with his glove on. You know, I mean, like I got my glove on. Does that I got my cleats on here, you know? It's like he cracks me up because he's so just regular guy, regular ball player.
Okay.
It's just another game, man. It's just another game of Little League. It's just another game of American Legion. It's just another game for Cal Raleigh, because they're all just another game, except he's getting to be a really good player at the best game.
Just wants to play all the time, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's
Dan is going to be the smartest guy to figure out how to toggle his need to get off the field, because we're gonna take some swings into some really hot weather coming up in the next 30 days. So you need to be careful with him and try to find those spots where you can get him off the field, and hopefully a day off afterward would be great.
Yeah, he's an amazing baseball player. It's just gonna be fun to watch him in the second half of the season. Obviously, that will be a huge storyline from an individual standpoint. What he's going to be able to do. All right, so they let that one slip away a little bit. What happened in that? Is that more of a how did it just kind of fall apart there on Sunday? Was there anything you saw from Woo which kind of started it, and then it kind of spun out of control once they got into that bullpen? And you've mentioned before, hey, listen, they're going to find some bats here at the trade deadline, but the one thing that they need to find is just another bullpen arm.
Yeah. Well, I think when you test your bullpen too much, and they don't have a lot of depth in front of Spire, Brash, and Munoz, that's going to show up. I thought Bryan Woo, again, he posted 6 innings. The one inning where he gave up 3, Crawford dropped a pop fly that cost him a run. I thought the umpiring was tight for both he and Hunter Brown. Both those guys threw extra pitches. I thought they got squeezed a little bit. Both of them did, and you see Woo get a little upset about the strike zone, because that guy just doesn't walk people. And then the 2 solo shots, we've seen that pop up in the 6th and 7th inning a lot with him.
Okay.
And we've talked a little bit about this, the importance of not the daunting third time around, but as you get into later innings, you have to understand the importance of staying away from the pull side of the field, particularly with guys with power. You got to keep the ball away. You've got to understand why down and away is important, and that may be boring. And it may be a one-hop smash to the second baseman, but it isn't always about whiff. It's not always about whiff. It's not going out there and it's Bugs Bunny versus Brutus or Bruto or whatever his name is, the cartoon character, where he strikes him out and he swings 3 times before the ball gets there. I mean, this is not a cartoon. Hey, look, swing and miss is great, but it's not the end all. The end all is to get the outs as quickly as you can. If you ask me what I prefer, a 6-pitch at bat where I strike the guy out, or a 1-pitch smash to the second baseman, I take the one hit smash to the second baseman for the out, Jason. I don't care what those knuckleheads upstairs that are telling us how important whiff is, because it's not that important. You know where whiff counts? It counts on strike 3, and I've joked about that. But it counts in the 7th and 8th inning. When you've got guys on base, you got the heat at the plate, and they're all trying to put the ball in play, and a strikeout is important. But for starting pitchers, it's not that important. 2nd and 3rd with less than 2 outs, strikeouts matter. Otherwise, I want to turn the page. I want guys to put it in play, keep my defense active, and get them to make quick outs. Because if you get your starting pitcher to go further, you see the results. Every team would love to just get to their top 2 guys at the end, so we should always talk about this more. Baseball's got a blind spot about this. They need to quit talking about trying to strike everybody out.
Do you think he changes at all? Do you see a different pitcher in the early portion of the game with Woo, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 4th, and is he trying to strike out more later in the game? Or is he's just consistent all the way through?
I mean, you look at the pitches. Christian Walker hit a middle end 2-seamer that, you have to be wary of guys. They got power. You got to keep that ball away. Okay. And then the ball to Trammell was in the loop zone, down and in. And he makes mistakes. For some reason, he makes a lot of fastball mistakes in that latter part of the game. He's got to clean that up. He's got to clean it up. Okay. Figure out a little bit better how to stay away from power. You got to stay away from power, and that he's got good enough control to do that. As you get deeper in the games, you need to understand that when you got a guy that doesn't have power, that's trying to hit the ball to right field, okay, you can go in on his hands, but you got to understand who the guys are that have power. I mean, Trammell or Trammell he's a one-trick guy, man. He's looking middle in to try to hit a ball at the ballpark. He's not a guy with an inside-out swing, and Christian Walker's got power. You got to stay away from his power. So that would be my comment. I don't want to be hypercritical because this guy has been fabulous. He's been the anchor of the staff. He's had a brilliant season. He's a brilliant talent. He throws a ton of strikes. He's repeatable. He's got good stuff. He's got deception. He knows what he's doing. This is just an area where he needs to get a little bit better to carry the game a little further. And there's also, we don't, our pitchers today are already looking over their shoulder in the sixth inning. They just are. They just know the end is near. And you shouldn't be pitching that way. You should be pitching with the horizon as far out as you can see and make them come out there and yank it out of your hand. That's the way you need to think.
Is there a pitcher, maybe if it's on this staff or somebody else that you've watched in baseball, is there someone that has that more old school approach that relies on pitching more to contact than anything else? Zach Wheeler?
Wheeler, I think he's the guy, man. Yeah, I think that he's got a hunger to pitch deep in games, and I'm glossing over the league. I'm not thinking really carefully about.
He's just the guy that stands out to you the most.
Yeah, he does. Oh. Yeah, he does. He's the guy that can do it, and a lot of pitchers they have the ability to do it. There's just too much of. They're taught so much about what's my best pitch and what's my best swing and miss pitch and how do I get another swing and miss. And there's pitches that get that kind of amp up your pitch count because you're not willing to sort of say, on 1-1 or 2-1, I'm just going to throw a fastball away. And it's okay. It's okay that they hit the ball. They put the ball in play. That's okay. You don't have to make them swing and miss every pitch. That's laborious. You end up using everything plus you show everybody everything you got. Of course, this is the flip side. Our pitchers today are taught, go out there and empty the bag. Show them everything. Show whatever you got to do to strike people out. Look what it's doing to Logan Gilbert. Look what's happened to his season. His strikeout rate is the best in the game, and he can't pitch past 5 innings. Right? I mean, we're watching it. Now, we realize that he's been hurt, that he had a hiatus in the middle of the season. Yeah. He needs to throw a fastball away every once in a while and get an easy out. Let's go. Your stuff is good, but his fastball command needs polishing. It's not that good.
What do you think?
He throws it as hard as he can and tries to hit the top line. He doesn't hit a spot.
What do you think?
He doesn't throw 97, 98 anymore like he did.
Yeah. What do you think led pitchers, Bill? I mean, just the change of the thought process and the way that the game is played. Now, what do you think led pitchers to shy away from pitching to contact more? I mean, we still do see it.
That's the way they're being coached. And they're being encouraged. They're saying, look, we don't care about pitching deep in games. We want you to throw your best stuff every inning and try to get everybody out and try to be tough to hit. And there's places for that in the game, but it shouldn't be the overriding strategy. It should not. You should try to command your fastball. If you understand where every hitter has a profile around the fastball. They like the ball in. They like the ball away. They there's a profile, and you need to understand the profile. Hey, look, everybody, when you get ahead, they're going to chase the breaking ball. Sure, you better have a good breaking ball to chase somebody out and beat them. You better have one, or you're not going to make it in the game. Mm-hmm. You got to have. So, but it's just too much of that, and everything kind of plays into the way that baseball wants to play. They want to play, 5 or 6 innings of the starter. We think we can rest them. And then because we can keep coming at you with a different guy. Right. And that's, in their minds, more difficult. I say that every time you add a pitcher, you add inherent risk to the game. Every time it goes out there, the dog it may be that day. It may be that you're the dog that day. Mm-hmm. If you run enough guys out there, you're playing Russian roulette with the one bullet in the chamber, and one of them is going to blow your head off. So that's how I think. I think more like see guys pitch. If they pitch well, keep them pitching. If a guy comes in and pitches well, let him pitch another inning. keep always looking at the game as it's played in front of you, as opposed to scripting it prior to the game. Let the game play out in front of you, and that, I think, dictates better decision making. You get more out of pitchers when they're pitching well, as opposed to collaring them when they're pitching well and then forcing them to pitch when they're not pitching well. It makes no sense. It's counterintuitive. So I think the quality start is a bad number because they ought to make it 7. And then maybe everybody would chase 7 because the quality start should be 7 instead of 6.
I agree with you on that one. I
mean, Storm Davis was the
that.
5 and fly guy. Now he'd be a star in the big leagues.
I agree.
We used to joke about the 5 and fly. 5 and fly. Oh, yeah, that's Storm Davis, the 5 and fly guy. Yeah. Now it's 5 and fly is like the norm.
Jamie Moyer pitching today's game?
He does for me. Greg Maddux, too. Yeah. This guy's in throw hard.
Do you see any of those guys? You don't see those guys anymore. Okay, I'm trying to think of it. Like, right, who's that? Who's the equivalent to those guys now? I mean, maybe there's someone out there we're not thinking of, but it just doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to think a little bit about it. There probably is someone that's just escaping our minds, but they're far and few between. Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah,
they're looking for big arms. They're looking for big stuff. Oh. They want to play power game. The strike zone is so big. The strike zone rewards the guy that throws the ball higher than the guy that throws the ball lower. And of course, Moore pitched low. Now remember, we talked about the strike zone. It's somewhere, it's not right at the letters. If it was at the letters, it would really be like really tough. It's a little bit below the letters to the top of the knee. When I played, it was a top of the thigh to the bottom of the knee. And rewards go to pitchers that can pitch. In other words, the plate would widen depending on who you were. If you're some kid out of nowhere, you get nothing. If you're Eckersley or you're one of the greats, you get the edge, you get more. Or you're the Atlanta Braves, you get the whole other batter's box, which was just amazing to watch. But yeah, I think Moyer could definitely pitch today, and he would make the adjustments accordingly. He'd figure out a way to how to come with some kind of pitch that slides across the top line with movement. He'd figure it out. He's a guily guy, I mean, he would have. And I think there's a place for it. I mean, having a guy that's much different. Look at the Mariners now. We talked about this. Having a left-hand start, Robbie Ray, disappears because we can't pay him anymore. And not to say that we don't have great starting pitching, but having a left-hander in the starting rotation would be good.
Of course.
It would be good. It would be helpful. And they're lacking left-handed pitching, period. It hurts them. It's hurt them this year so far.
Maybe it's what led them to get Cade Anderson out of LSU. I mean, he's the best pitch. He was the best player and best pitcher available at that time. And if he were right-handed, they would have selected him if he was right-handed. But it just makes it, unique. It makes it gives them some variety, whenever he comes up and starts pitching for him.
Yeah, he's in watching him, 4-pitch command, really smooth, good control, good delivery. I don't know his makeup, but everybody was just wowing about his makeup. Yeah, so I think he's going to be special, and he's going to get there pretty quick.
These left-handers, it just looks better. I don't care what it is. It does. It always does. It looks better when you pitch. Looks better when you hit. Golfers look better left-handed. You lefties just.
I know. It's just we got
you have it made, and you guys can all draw. That's what I don't like as well. You all can. Can you draw?
No.
You're the only left-hander I know that can't.
And I got a straight ball cap too, so that's probably why. If I get a crooked hat, then I could probably be able to draw.
Every left-hander I know, except for you, can draw. You're the only one. How is that
happened to me?
How is that possible? I don't know. What he's getting closer to returning. I've heard people bring this idea up. Curious, run it by you. Bryce Miller. When he comes back, what should they do? What's the best course for Bryce Miller moving forward? They no doubt will put him back in the rotation. He'll go back there. That's what he's been. Yeah. But once, if they make it in the postseason, what would the best route for him be? Rotation, or do you now use him out of the bullpen because you can't use all of them?
Yeah, I think they've got the top 4 unless something changes dramatically. I think you've got your top 4, and that's not Bryce Miller. So. And that doesn't mean he can't pitch. He could come back, and he could be, a guy that really just comes on like gangbusters, pitches like he did last year, really his whole career. Right. yeah, you just wish for the best with him. He's got I understand he's got a bone chip, I think. Is that what it is?
A bone
And sometimes
spur.
those
Yeah.
bone spur, then it's not going to move around. Okay. I've had the bone chip where basically they kept trying to rehab me. And finally, when they just said, let's just stop doing everything with your arm. And then I did nothing for like 2 or 3 weeks, I think. And the bone chip, it went into a recess. It went away. It went to a recess. It went out of the place where it was irritating the joint. Now, his spur, that's a whole different deal. That's an inflammation problem that's going to have to be resolved. So I don't know. I mean, they had to calm him down. And then, hopefully he can come back and return. And what causes the spur? Who knows? As I watch these guys, when you look at what's happened to Gilbert and Miller and have them be so injury free, I mean, everybody's going to get hurt. But how is that dig in deep split affecting their arm?
Yeah.
That's what I wonder. Whereas, you got such good stuff. Why not backspin a circle changeup and it takes a little more work. It's a harder pitch. It's more a pitch to contact pitch. It's more of a 2-1, get you off the fastball pitch. So it's not as flashy. It's not a swing and miss pitch. But, to me, when you've got great arsenal, big arm, you got a good breaking ball, the changeup should be the pitch that sort of levels you, that allows your fastball to breathe sometimes. You don't have to throw it when you're in a fastball count. You throw that four-seam changeup and the guys just get out in front and roll it over. But the split is more of the split is a breaking ball. It's a breaking ball. It's more of a 50-50, 60-40 pitch. Whereas your changeup, you should be able to probably throw it a lot more like your fastball and command-wise, right? And you can see Kirby is kind of going back to throwing a changeup now and sort of getting away from the split. We're seeing it here and there, but you just have to wonder, because when you throw a split and you open those fingers up, unless you really train your fingers, I used to do it with a softball to try to keep elongating your fingers and getting more relaxation. Because what happens when you hold the ball like that, it tightens up your forearm, tightens everything up, and that puts a lot of pressure on what? Your elbow.
Yeah, right.
And what's happened to those two guys? Elbow
problems. Yeah, and they both were throwing those pitches. Hey, before you go, he's going to go into give me a thought, give me a minute or two on Ichiro Suzuki. His Hall of Fame is this weekend. Will be on Sunday.
Yes.
He'll be inducted. I think everyone's just looking forward to what this speech is going to be and what he's going to say. Most unique player you've ever seen?
Yeah, I mean, he just it's a toss back in time. These guys that used to slap it and run, they just weren't in the game anymore. And suddenly he came along and defined the art of just hitting singles and putting pressure on the other team. And he consummate work ethic. Nobody I've ever seen had as good work ethic as that guy. He still has work ethic. My gosh, he's still doing the same regimen. Somebody needs to tell him that he's not going to be in the lineup. But remarkable skills, a good defender, a very healthy player. Lots of lessons there. Why don't we take speed players and try to make them look like him? Don't try to hit the ball in the air. Hit the ball the other way. Bunt and hit the ball the other way. Slap the ball the other way. Run like the wind. Get hits. Put pressure. Steal bases. I mean, what's wrong with that kind of player? To me, everybody would love to have that player. Not everybody's a slugger. So, and then I look at just the way he took care of himself. It's just remarkable. He needed Broken Rose's record. If he'd have gotten here when he started his career, he'd Broken Rose's record. Yeah. No problem. He'd have just blown past him. So I think he's one unique player. He's kind of like Ty Cobb without the nastiness, I mean, just an incredible, consummate, all-field hitter with great speed. I think it's a testament. And you have to remember, too, how much pressure there was on him. The whole country was on his shoulders. He had to break through as a position player to say, yeah, Japanese players can play here and they can be great. And there was a lot of doubters. So it's cool that he's a Mariner, and I think he's a one and only player.
Just like you, One and only, and the only left-hander I know that can't draw. Bill Krueger, Old School Baseball, is the podcast. He's the host of it. Check it out on your favorite podcast platforms. And, of course, follow him on social media, Old School MLB. And he joins us every single Monday. This episode, you'll find it later also on, again, Bill's Old School podcast, which you can find on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. All right, Bill, enjoy the week, and we'll see you next Monday.
Okay, Jace, thanks much.
Bill Krueger again on Mondays with us in case you missed it and came in late on the live show. Everything podcast up on YouTube. Just search Puck Sports. Also, you can find it later. Bill Krueger, Old School Baseball, part of the Daily Puck Drop up on Apple and Spotify or your other favorite choices for podcasts. Also, in addition, later this week, that interview with myself and Bill will be up on his podcast page, Old School Baseball, which, again, find on all your favorite podcast platforms. As the Mariners get ready, first game of a 3-game series coming up tonight, and very anticipated series. You know, in the beginning of the season, you're like, they're playing the Brewers on July 21st, but the hell, this will be a hell of a great series. Kirby and Woodruff tonight. Great story about Brandon Woodruff, just guy who's making his third start this year. Last pitched in 23 late in the season, had a torn labrum, missed all of last year. He's back. Tomorrow is the juicy one, Logan Gilbert against Jacob Mizorowski. And then Luis Castillo, this is a sneaky one, against Preister coming up on Wednesday. And that one will be the matinee game as they finish things off in that 3-game series. So great series coming up. A red-hot baseball team who is playing the best in baseball right now. And so the Mariners ran into that, before the break against Detroit. You'll see what they can do here starting tonight against the Milwaukee Brewers. All right. We're going to get to our Puck the Picker Majors winner here in just a quick second. We got to announce that. And of all of our winners for that, but real quick before we get into that, the brilliance of Scottie Scheffler, and that will lead us into the Puck the Picker Majors Pool winners. There was this guy's unbelievable. You get up early this yesterday morning and watch what he did. He just, from the first tee shot, he just, ran away with it. And you knew once he was building that, it was a 4-shot, 5-shot, 6-shot, 7-shot lead, and he wasn't going to give it up. He's not one of those players. He's not going to cough up a lead. He's Tiger Woods. It's Jack Nicklaus. These guys get leads like this, these 54-hole leads, they don't lose them. In fact, the 10th straight time he's converted a 54-hole lead. That is the longest streak since Tiger Woods. It's interesting because there's been a lot of comps with him and Tiger Woods, just the dominance of their careers in this period of time that he's been dominating here for 2+ years. You're seeing players being interviewed after rounds and after tournaments all the time, and it's the same questions. You remember these questions where it wasn't even asking these players about their play, how they do. It's about Tiger, and you're seeing it now. Xander Schauffele, who has had a great year, who had an awesome year last year. First questions are just talking about Scottie Scheffler. Jordan Spieth, this is a major champ, 2-time Masters champion, U.S. Open champion, Open championship champion. I mean, having to talk about another golfer. He's probably more associated to me when you look at their careers. And I saw Nicklaus in his when he was on the downside of his career, in his late 40s. But to me, just watching the highlights and seeing how they interact and how they, I guess, just act in general, he resembles more of Jack Nicklaus than he does Tiger Woods. He is quiet. He's humble. He is. We've talked a lot about the everyman with Cal Raleigh. He is that. But the thing with Scottie Scheffler, deep down inside, that dude is a stone cold killer, man. Wanting to win at all costs and doing whatever it takes to win. And that the second he has that kind of look in his eye, it's over. Harris English, who had a great tournament, had a great quote this weekend, and he said he plays every round like it's his last. Because I think he feels that way. He feels, and he talked about it early in this week, this amount of pressure to win. chasing greatness that he talked about this week. And then you chase this greatness and it lasts a couple of minutes. You turn the page and you're on to the next week. But I think what he was trying to get at is this balance that you have, right? Of having balance in life, being a father, being a husband, just trying to lead a normal life. But at the same time, what you do for a profession is, very public. And there's an extreme amount of pressure on what he does there for a living. I think what makes him great is that he's not defined by championships. I think for him, he's defined, and he's talked about it, I think, defined by his family, his friends, how he kind of carries himself. Is he a good husband? Is he a good father? All those kinds of things. Alan Shipnuck, who is a terrific golf writer. We had him on back in the radio days, who covers golf or used to cover golf for Sports Illustrated. He had a note in his recap of the tournament saying he would be a guy that would be as comfortable and is content to wake up in the morning, make pancakes for his kids, go to his job, probably an insurance salesman, come back home, mow the lawn, and start barbecuing later that night. And there's, I think, an element of that I agree with, a lot of it, that normalcy that he likes, which I think, I think I know that helps him, the player that he is on the course, because I don't think he probably obsesses about it at home. I think he thinks about it a lot, but I don't know if he obsesses it like the other golfers. But I would disagree with Shipnuck in just saying that I don't think he'd be content doing that, because I think that there is, you see stories or read stories about him early on. I think there's a burning desire to be great. And I think there's such a competitive spirit in him that he needs that to be unleashed, and selling insurance is not going to unleash that. He needs that vice, right? He needs that competitive desire. He needs that juice, right? He needs to be in that arena that they always talk about. But I think the difference from Scottie Scheffler is he doesn't allow that arena to consume him, and he's able to separate him. Very few athletes can do it, and he appears to be doing the best at it. And it's truly, truly amazing to watch him tee it up every week. I think with how humble he is, the humility, the just kind of everyman quality to it. I think that's what makes Scottie Scheffler so appealing, because he knows when he teed it off yesterday and all week long, they weren't there to watch him. They were to watch one person and one person only. That was Rory McIlroy win it there on home soil. In fact, when he hit his first tee shot, you could hear there was somebody like, "Come on, Rory," because they were just there to see Rory. But eventually, as he put Rory away and Rory kind of put himself away, and they got to the last few holes, I think you saw that the fan base turn, because they are witnessing something that doesn't come around a lot. Probably didn't think it would come around this quickly after Tiger, but it's here. It's here. How close will he get to Tiger? I don't know. No one knows. But when he is on his A game, just like Tiger, or even slightly off, there is just no one that at this moment in this sport that can compete with him. All right, that gets us now to, as we have wrapped up with the majors. We did it this year. The Puck the Picker Majors pool started with the Masters. Then it was the PGA Championship, U.S. Open, wrapped up with the Open Championship. We did a season-long Majors pool contest, which was all brought to you by our good friends at Synthetic Turf.
Puck the Picker Majors pool is back, brought to you by syntheticturfnorthwest.com. Tired of that muddy backyard? Look at this beautiful backyard. Look how pretty it looks with that 3-hole putting green. Tired of the cost of watering your lawn? Synthetic Turf Northwest is pet friendly. They do synthetic lawn installation, custom turf installation, and with golf here, give you a golf green installation as well. Sign up today, syntheticturfnorthwest.com.
Yeah, reach out to them. They're the best in the business, Synthetic Turf Northwest. Big thanks to everyone over there, Mike and everybody. Mary, thank you so much for being a part of this season-long contest, picking all the majors. It was a fun contest. We had so many people sign up for it. Oh, we'll do it. Hopefully we can do it again next year. We'll get even more people to sign up. Big thanks to Troon Golf, Seattle Premier Golf Courses in the area. It was just so much fun to do this. We put together with the help of so many great people. Just I think a tremendous prize package. Our first place prize package for this was a one-night stay, 2 rounds of golf at Gamble Sands for a twosome. Phenomenal. Second place prize was a foursome to Fairwood Golf and Country Club. That place near and dear to my heart. That's where in high school I worked all the way through high school there. Third place, a foursome at Mill Creek Country Club. Shout out to the Ryans there on Mill Creek Country Club. Fourth place, they didn't give me the prize, but I'm just saying a shout out to the Ryans. Fourth place, a foursome at one of Troon's Seattle Premier golf courses, plus an hour-long top tracer range session at either Inter Bay Jackson or Bill Wright, which is formerly Jefferson Golf Course. So we first and second, we had a tie for third that we had to break the tie there between two, and it was just simply based on who signed up first. That's that or Rochambeau. But hopefully everybody had a good time with this, and we appreciate. Oh, shout out to Bill Sanders, Sandman Sports, who was the host of the standings and getting in the picks all season long. Shout out to Bill. Go visit sandmansports.com if you like golf pools, you like any kind of pools, anything related to having a little action on games and having fun with different fun pools and all different kinds of sports. Sandmanpools.com. Big thanks to Bill Sanders for partnering with us throughout the golf season. All right, here we go. First place prize for the round of two at Gamble Sands Golf Resort and a one-night stay. Congratulations. You know what? And Brendan, I'm going to nail your last name. Limpsis. Brendan Limpsis with 10 point. He garnered $10.9 million there over the course of the golf season. So, Brendan, congratulations. You get the stay and play package at Gamble Sands. Second place, which is a foursome at Fairwood Golf and Country Club, goes to Jake Nelson. Congratulations there to Jake Nelson. Good job, Jake. Third place, because there was a tie there, third and fourth place between Trent Buchanan and Tony Radjic. And because Trent got in his signed up 2 days earlier, April 7th, wins on a tiebreaker over Tony. Sorry, Tony, don't kill me. Trent, you get a foursome at Mill Creek Country Club. So congratulations to you, Trent. And Tony, you got a damn good package yourself. You get a foursome at one of Troon's Seattle Premier golf courses. Plus, Tony, you get an hour-long top tracer range session at either Inter Bay Jackson or Bill Wright, which again formerly is Jefferson. Thank you to everyone. Congratulations to Brendan, Jake, Trent, and Tony. Big thanks again to Synthetic Turf Northwest, Troon, Seattle Premier Golf Courses, Bill Sanders there at SandmanSports.com. The first Puck the Picker Majors pool. Well, it's the second year, but the first one with this prize package, and hopefully we'll do it again next year. It was a lot of fun to kind of keep track of it all summer long, and hopefully we'll get even a bigger turnout coming up next year. But big thanks to everyone involved there in the contest. All right, before we wrap up the show, of course, it's Hey What the Puck, which is brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle, which is your restoration company. Lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. We talked about this with Bob Condotta. In case you missed our interview with Bob Condotta today from the Seattle Times, previewing the start of the Seahawks training camp coming up on Wednesday, go back and watch it on the YouTube podcast, or you can listen to it if you want to on the other podcasts there on Apple or Spotify or wherever you find your favorite podcast. Big year for Ken Walker coming up. You know, he is entering the final year of his contract. Clearly, there's no new deal coming. He started his career off with the bang, but the next few years have been filled with injuries and disappointment, really. And I think the dangling of a carrot of a new contract over his head is going to be a good thing for Ken Walker. And I think everybody wants Ken Walker to get back to the Ken Walker you saw as a rookie. And I think Bob brought up a great point in this new scheme. That is going to be implemented with Clint Kubiak. Is he the right running back for this system? Well, we'll find out. I think Zach Charbonnet has been a very good addition. I'm a big fan of Zach Charbonnet, and maybe Charbonnet is a guy that fits better. Maybe Kenny McIntosh, Damian Martinez. It's a nice running back room. But there is a difference in an explosiveness to Ken Walker that he has that is not shared really by those other running backs. There is a home run threat to him, and a guy that can be really just truly a number one type of running back. And you hope that he can put together a really fine season that would make the decision for the Seahawks to bring him back. Not a difficult one, but an easy one. But he has to get on the field, and he has to be present, and he can't deal with these lingering injuries that he's had. But then the production's got to be there. He's got to be able to fit within the system. So how this team goes, we've talked a lot about Sam Darnold, the offensive line, but man, Ken Walker. In a run-based offense that features the running backs should have a monster season. And maybe you will. When you enter the last year of your contract, your team doesn't, pick up the option. You don't have that, or even talk to you maybe about an extension. Maybe that's the type of thing that will motivate Ken Walker. Because motivation is a big thing in sports, in all sports. Doesn't matter what it is. And this motivation for Ken Walker of you're doubting me. Oh, you drafted another running back. Well, I'll prove it to you here coming up this season. I'm fascinated to see what Ken Walker can do. And this is stating the obvious, a healthy, productive Ken Walker makes this team so much better, and this offense so much better. So can't wait to watch that. All right, that's Hey What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One in North Seattle. Your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make me your first call when these damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online, please, at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. Thank you for watching and listening today. Thank you to all the sponsors. Limbeck Lumber, a Clean Streak, even though Jim Moore wasn't here. Clean Streak, thank you to Clean Streak for supporting the one and only go-to guy Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. He'll be back on Wednesday, we think. Today's Daily Puck Drop up on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel. Also find the Daily Puck Drop on your favorite podcast platforms. And, of course, up at pucksports.com. When you're at pucksports.com, sign up to become a Puck Spotsy member. $5 a month. You support all the free content and VIP and exclusive shows as well. Our baseball coverage every Wednesday with Ryan Divish, the Sports Pit with Steve Sandmeyer, Matt Stretch Johnson. And by the way, I didn't fail to mention that. We normally have been recording on Sundays and Mondays. We're going to start recording on Tuesdays. It kind of fits for everyone's schedule. And we'll get those out Tuesday night for you. But just Tuesdays, moving forward, we kind of felt was a better time for us to record. Hopefully everyone's still is liking the Sports Pit with Stretch there and Sandmeyer. We love it. Love doing it. It's always fun for us to get together and shoot the shit. Mitch the Kid on Thursdays. And now we produce the Garage with Gas Take 5 podcast, where you can find on YouTube and all your favorite podcast platforms. All right. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We will talk to John Canzano. Will be back with us, and a little baseball talk with Jim Duquette from MLB Network Radio. Until then, as always, promise to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!